right, so thank you for joining us here for the first of 2 semifinal matches here at the 2016 Players Championship. It's going to be the number 5 seed Caleb Scherer versus number 8 seed Jacob Baugh. Both players already have 2 wins today. They brought them to the semifinals. For Caleb, he's on the place as about the higher seed, so he'll start the game. It's going to be Botanical Sanctum into Attune with the Aether.
The first couple of turns in this matchup is really going to be similar things happening on both sides. When you really start to see the game development, it's going to be turn 4. It's going to be the question of, does either player have Aetherworks Marvel? If both players don't, who's casting a Planeswalker?
You're looking at Caleb's hand. Now, he's got a turn 1 Attune with the Aether and a turn 2 Servant of the Conduit. When he has both of those and he has them on the play, that's about as good as you can do here, isn't it?
Yeah, you generate a lot of energy. You should have enough mana to cast your Marvel.
Jacob just starting on Game Trail, no Attune of his own, so he'll be 2 energy behind Caleb. And for Scherer, he's going to play that mountain he found, and it will be Servant of the Conduit. The 2/2 elf brings Caleb up to 4 energy. Threatens a turn 3 Marvel also.
There are some matchups where you want to go for the turn 3 Marvel when your opponent's playing Spell Queller, for example. You want to get under that. Using an energy to do that doesn't generally seem beneficial in the mirror. You still probably want to cast it on turn 4.
For Jacob Baugh, he makes an energy of his own on turn 2. It's the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. You're right here, though. When you make a turn 3, none of the deck actually can't cast and activate a turn 3 Marvel. So
Right.
Getting it out there a turn early, yes, you cast it a turn early, but it doesn't end up activating a turn early.
If you only had 3 lands that you knew you were going to be able to hit, and you suspected that your servant were to die, then you would go ahead and cast the Marvel on turn 3.
You see Caleb getting in some chip damage. He uses the Servant of the Conduit to attack Baugh down to 9 to 21, and then follows up with Whirler Virtuoso. It's the 2/3 blue-red uncommon from Kaladesh, but it also brings him up to 7 energy, and he's over that threshold of 6.
And if you're wondering, you think Caleb might go on the Thopter beatdown plan. It almost never happens, but
We're going to see it here.
if you
All
don't
right.
have the Marvel, you have to win the game somehow.
Well, it's interesting. We see Caleb, he's going to make 2 Thopters on end step. I'm really surprised he's doing this into the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot from Baugh.
Well, Baugh is the puzzle knot. This is just indicative that Caleb doesn't think he's going to be able to Marvel. He just has to get ahead.
Yeah, well, clearly when he makes this play, he doesn't have Marvel. What I'm interested is that he made this play. He didn't take a turn off to try to draw into Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
But he will now untap with 6 power on the board. That much will be powerful. And we'll go ahead and see what Caleb's line is. For Baugh, it's pretty simple. Turn 2 Puzzle Knot, turn 3 use the Puzzle Knot, turn 4 Marvel. That adds up.
Right. Especially with Caleb committing to this very aggressive line, spending that much energy. Caleb's not marveling. Spend your time gaining your life, make it so these beatdowns don't really matter, and then start marveling first.
Yeah. So Caleb will cast on turn 4 here a second Attune with Aether. That brings him back up to 3 energy, which I guess on this strategy means another Thopter. Finds a forest. Plays it, and looks like he's going to attack for 6. That'll drop Baugh to 15. Now, Caleb does have a Vessel in his hand. However, he can't play and crack at this turn. He's going to use Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot instead, and then use the Vessel.
This is a above average looking draft deck that Caleb has cobbled together, but if Baugh has an Aetherworks Marvel and starts finding things with that.
Goes up to 18 life and 6 energy. We go back to Baugh for the 4th turn. Caleb, interestingly enough, could have played and sacrificed the Vessel that turn. He's going to be short. Even if this Vessel finds the Marvel, he won't be able to cast it and activate it.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have to spend an energy to use enough mana. It would bring him down to 5, meaning he wouldn't have enough. But we'll see. Now the big question is, does Baugh have the Marvel of his own?
Right.
If he doesn't, this play is... If, say, all his big payoff is a Planeswalker, this play from Caleb seems excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chandra, for example, doesn't do anything on this board.
No, Chandra or Nahiri that could get rid of one of these creatures. Most likely you would just go for the Virtuoso. Stop it from making more Thopters, though Caleb would just make...
He might make 2 more.
He'd make 2 more with that happening. Use some number of those Thopters to clean up whichever Planeswalker you've cast.
It's a really interesting line. Caleb is just... He's calling Baugh here. He's saying, show me the Marvel... But if you don't, if it does nothing against Baugh's Marvel, but if Baugh has anything else, any other Planeswalker, this plan's really going to work out for Caleb. Bad news, though. Baugh does have Aetherworks Marvel. So,
Notably, Baugh does not have Delirium, so a hit like Ishkana would not be as impactful here as it normally would be, though he is still at 18 life.
yeah, Caleb end step makes 2 more Thopters. That's Thopters number 3 and 4. So he untaps with 8 power on the board. It's a 3-turn clock as it stands. We'll see how he wants to play here. He has to keep in mind there's a Marvel and 6 energy on Baugh's side of the table. Baugh needs a hit here.
And I think Caleb just has to shove and bank on Baugh just missing.
All right, so here we go. Here's the attack. Here's the 6 cards from Baugh. These are an important 6 here for the game. What can he hit? We see a Marvel, a Vessel, an Attune, a Nahiri, a Land, and an Attune. Especially because he did this on Caleb's turn, this is a miss.
Yeah. He has made it so that these creatures are attacking him, not Nahiri, so he gets to untap with Nahiri. So that's one thing, but he found nothing that matters for this combat.
Right, so he would be taking the full 8. He'd go to 10. I mean, and what's Nahiri against a swarm of Thopters?
Yeah, he gets to start making some inroads of casting removal spells, but he needs to get more energy, and he needs to make this Marvel hit something impactful.
He was really hoping to find his 1 main deck Ulamog or one of his 3 main deck Emrakuls.
And with Caleb having this Vessel here, he's in a position where he could find it in Ishkana, likely have Delirium online, and really turn up the heat on his beatdowns.
Such an interesting game here for Caleb. I don't know, seeing him spend 12 energy on Thopters when he had a Vessel. Just could have found Aetherworks Marvel, but said, no, we're not even interested. We're going to play it this way. Baugh drops to 10 on the attack. And we'll see what Caleb's follow-up is. He may just keep things going. Yeah, it's going to be sacrifice the Vessel, top 4 cards.
If he were to find his other Virtuoso, that would be a totally reasonable card to cast here.
Chandra, Aether Hub, Forest, Harnessed Lightning. So he can take a Planeswalker or a land. He'll go for the Planeswalker. That's Chandra, Torch of Defiance.
That Planeswalker damages opponents.
It does deal 2, just off the bat.
That plays really well with what he's up to here.
Well, his attack was for 8. As you see, he cracks Puzzle Knot again. So 8 more, plus 2 from Chandra. That is lethal.
Also gets to make another Thopter, given that he blew that Puzzle Knot.
This is such an interesting game from Caleb. And now we go to Baugh, and it's a huge draw for Jacob Baugh. It's a copy of Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Right now he's on 0 energy, but as he has Aether Hub in his hand, he now has a big decision.
Yeah, if he has a 5th land, he can play Puzzle Knot, crack Puzzle Knot, go up to 6 energy there. Like you mentioned, if it's the Aether Hub, he'd have 7, so a little bit left over. Activate the Marvel.
Nahiri will -2 to exile the Whirler Virtuoso, but not before Caleb makes a 5th Thopter. Now we have Aether Hub from Baugh. Puzzle Knot, such a huge draw, and I think that's the line he's going for. Gaining 3/3 energy. So up to 13 and 4 energy. A sacrifice here will make it 16 and 8 energy.
Caleb needs Baugh to find another poor one.
Can't talk enough about how important that draw was for Baugh. Without hitting the Puzzle Knot that turn, he did not have a way to use Aetherworks Marvel again.
The life gain is also very significant here as well. That's enough to slow Caleb down by at least 1 full turn.
So we go back over to Scherer. Draws a card for the turn. It's Basic Mountain.
Getting really flooded on Scherer's side.
We see 5 Thopters and a Servant. It's interesting whether or not Scherer will even send any of these at the Nahiri from Baugh.
Yeah, the Nahiri doesn't do a whole lot. It just gets to exile another creature on the following turn.
Yeah, with all these Thopters, I would think that the chip damage might just matter more. Here's going to be a swing Thopters and Servant, all of it at Jacob. And now we see the sacrifice of the Puzzle Knot. Jacob goes up to 8 energy, 16 life. Aetherworks Marvel will spend 6 of it. Top 6, here we go. Jacob looking for one of those Eldrazi's. He's got 4 hits in the deck for game 1. Chandra, Emrakul has been spotted. It looks like this one is going to work. And Emrakul, the Promised End, is the play from Jacob Baugh. So keep in mind, this is Caleb's turn. So now with the Emrakul trigger, what we're going to have is Jacob Baugh will take a turn. Then Caleb will take a turn controlled by Jacob. Then Caleb will get his own turn.
Yep.
Emrakul blocks Servant of the Conduit. Baugh takes 5. Goes to a really healthy 11. Then for Caleb, it's Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Interesting to see what he wants to do with it as well. It's going to most likely could get attacked by the Emrakul. He's going to plus Chandra, exiling the top card. Looks like Servant of the Conduit. Opts not to cast it, deals the 2 damage, however, redirects the damage at Nahiri.
Now that Baugh has found this Emrakul, taking care of the Nahiri matters a little bit more because Baugh has something else going on. He has to do less to actually put himself back in the game.
And Baugh draws for the turn. Keep in mind the next turn is also, Baugh will control Caleb's next turn. So there's some interesting decisions here. Emrakul can attack Chandra. If she does though, however, then she can't block a Thopter.
Right. Baugh just has Artifact Planeswalker in his graveyard, so he can't cast a Delirious Ishkana here.
3 energy right now. 1 Puzzle Knot would make 3 more. Gotta see if there's another way to spin Marvel. I think he's probably interested in that.
Another bit of upside to Scherer taking care of the Nahiri is it gets a free discard for Baugh. He has Evolving Wilds here. He could have got Delirium and cast an Ishkana that way.
He'll sacrifice Evolving Wilds, going up to 4 energies, getting very close to 6 again. 3rd card type in the graveyard as well. Now he has a land to go with Planeswalker and Artifact. Five mana up. Looking through the cards in Baugh's hand, he's got another Emrakul. He's got a Traverse. And here we see Traverse the Ulfin Vault. He's going to go ahead, has to get a land with it, but now has 4 card types in the graveyard. Finds a basic forest. 4 mana up, he did have another Nahiri in his hand. Emrakul on the battlefield. He's at 11, and Caleb has 5 Thopters in play. So between 5 Thopters and Chandra, it's a 1 or 2 turn clock, or 2 or 3 turn clock. Looks like Jacob will cast his Nahiri. See what he wants to do with it. Now, in Jacob's hand, he has an Ishkana, and now that he does have Delirium, that's something he can do next turn. Discards the forest he found off a tune. Draws Aether Hub, that's an upgrade for sure. And Emrakul will attack Chandra, and she's off the board. So now we go to Caleb's turn. Jacob's going to control it.
Caleb's been drawing a lot of lands off the top, so Baugh will be able to not sabotage too much, but Caleb doesn't have anything going on.
Yeah, I mean, the Thopters won't attack.
Right.
I suppose this extra turn actually just draws Caleb a card.
Right. Though he's not in a position where one card can make a huge difference. He has no energy, doesn't have Aetherworks Marvel. Forest Mountain is his hand.
Draws Ulamog. That's not castable.
A little bit off of that one. 6 lands.
So I'm not sure Jacob can do anything to sabotage here. Not sure I don't really want to attack. I don't want to play a land.
I'm also not sure that Jacob can lose this game.
He's still in a great spot. You're not wrong. And Caleb's aggressive tactic, it looks like it fell 1 top-decked Puzzle Knot short of working.
Though the way that he played it, that was the only way he could have potentially won this game.
Right, he just didn't have an Aetherworks Marvel.
Right. Just didn't work out.
Now Caleb draws for his own turn. The draw is Attune with Aether. That doesn't really do anything for him.
Nope.
Has to decide how he's going to try to win now. He can play land 7, but at 1 land a turn, he's not really going to get up to Ulamog. He's at 26, so he can take an Emrakul hit. The second one will kill him. So
Best way for Caleb to get into this game involves him top-decking an Emrakul of his own.
So he's going to swing. Now, the interesting thing is where to send these Thopters. Is it going to be at Baugh? Is he going to knock the Nahiri down to 1? Looks like it's all damage, all 5. Baugh goes to 6.
Yeah, knocking the Nahiri down to 1, not terribly productive.
Yeah, it's giving Jacob a free life gain spell.
Right.
So 2 energy back for Scherer.
You know, if Baugh attacks with the Nahiri, sure, you can exile one of the Thopters. But if those Thopters matter, they matter because they're attacking Jacob, so you may as well just send them upstairs.
Finds a basic forest. Plays it. This is land 7. His hand is land 8, 9, and an Ulamog. None of that really plays, and his top decks are slim as well. With only 2 energy, Marvel doesn't do much. Could check. Land 8 means maybe a top decked Emrakul plays. It's close. Evolving Wild's the draw for Jacob Baugh. Between that and Aether Hub, he can get up to 5 energy.
And he has Ishkana in his hand, which is totally reasonable to just cast that spell here.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob's going to set up for a big finish. If he pluses the Nahiri to 8, she's going to do that. So Nahiri will threaten to ultimate.
Finding another Glassblower's or a Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot here would be excellent for Baugh.
Oh, yeah, you can Nahiri for a puzzle knot.
Well, I didn't mean so much -8ing Nahiri and finding it.
He's going to swing for 13 and put Caleb to 13.
Were he to naturally draw it, I think.
No. You get to use it 3 times if you Nahiri for it.
You get to return it to your hand.
Right.
The value.
Ishkana is the follow-up for Baugh. The 3/5 brings along her trio of 1/2s. Then he plays a Vessel, and Aether Hub goes to 5 energy, says go. Certainly he'll have lethal next turn between that Nahiri ultimate, the Ishkana, the Emrakul. This could be Caleb's last turn.
Caleb did pick up Emrakul. What do we have for card types?
Yeah, land 8. He needs 5 card types in the graveyard. Not sure if he has it. He did crack a Vessel earlier. And he did lose a servant of Virtuoso.
He lost to Chandra as well.
All right, so we have... Yeah, I think he's got it. We'll double check. Here's Emrakul, the Promised End. He's only tapping 6 for it. He has 7 card types.
He very much had it.
Okay, he had it with
so now he's
a
got
lot to spare.
Figure out what he can do to sabotage Baugh.
This is interesting. Okay, so let's look at Nahiri the Harbinger for a second. Because there's a Nahiri that can ultimate on the board for Jacob. And now I start wondering...
Putting it on 8 may have been a mistake.
What's the worst thing? Is there something really destructive you can get out of your opponent's deck? That's going to be a question. An artifact or a creature?
A lot of what Baugh is up to is cast triggers. He can find a second Emrakul and just legend rule both of those. That is significant.
We see Baugh's hand. He's got an Emrakul in hand and an Aetherworks Marvel in hand.
Yeah, the rest of the stuff, there's really not a whole lot he can do.
There's no something like a Noxious Gear Hulk. I guess you wouldn't want to make him gain life anyway, but...
Right. But yeah, just getting rid of the Planeswalker, finding another Emrakul, legend ruling them away, that is significant.
How is Scherer going to get through this? I mean, at the very much, he can -8 and fail to find, so here he's done.
Right.
Can he get that Emrakul out of Baugh's hand? I mean, he could plus the Nahiri and then Emrakul's discarded, but then Jacob has a Nahiri on 10.
Right.
Not really interested in that. Really interesting turn here for Caleb. So this is Baugh's turn, controlled by Caleb Scherer. Only other creatures, so the creatures and artifacts he can get: Servant of the Conduit, Emrakul the Promised End, Ishkana, Sigarda, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, Aetherworks Marvel. There are some lines here. He can suicide some creatures, use the Nahiri to find a Marvel, legend rule away Jacob's Marvel, try to Marvel into some garbage, exile all that stuff too. There's a lot of damage he could do.
Yeah, spend most of Baugh's energy. He currently has 5.
Yeah, he's going to get a lot if Caleb starts sweeping his board. You see, what it looks like here is that Emrakul is going to attack and be double blocked by a Thopter and an Emrakul. So Caleb will assign the damage 1 to Thopter and 12 to the Emrakul. So Thopter trades with Emrakul is kind of your net result. Ishkana attacks as well. Is there a reason to have Ishkana attack? Looks like he might be trying to exile the Ishkana with the Nahiri. Okay. So not going to ult the Nahiri. He's going to -2 it. Otherwise, there's really no reason to attack with the spider here.
Yeah, and if he was going to -8 the Nahiri, card you would want to find would be Emrakul, at which point attacking with this one doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, most likely. So, Emrakul, 2 spiders, dead for Baugh. 2 Thopters, dead for Scherer. Make that 3 Thopters. Now up to 8 energy. 3 things died on Baugh's side. Is he going to minus Nahiri first, or does he want to see what the Marvel has in store? Keep in mind there's also a vessel in play for Baugh, so it's probably in Caleb's interest to find that. Nahiri will exile away the Spider Queen. Now he'll spin the Marvel, and now he'd love to find something real damaging. Chandra. Serving the Conduit, serving the Conduit. Ishkana, Chandra. And I'm interested, if this was the line, I would have thought Caleb would start with Marvel. I guess it was only at 5.
Yeah, he did get energy in that combat. He could have
Yeah.
gotten it by cracking the vessel.
Yeah. I mean, on this line, then, it's really hard to say both ways.
Right.
And it might be he chooses to cast none of these.
Could use Chandra to kill that last spider, but then Baugh's on tapping with another planeswalker. That seems less than ideal.
He decides, no, I don't cast any of those. They're on the bottom. I'm just spending 6 of your energy. And is he going to sack the vessel? I assume so. There's no way to stop Baugh. Interestingly, Baugh's very close to just being able to activate Marvel on his own.
If
right?
you crack the vessel and find one of 2 lands that produce energy, either Aether Hub or Evolving Wilds, and cast the other Marvel, you get an energy for cracking the vessel, up to 3. Second Marvel, 4/5. That land, 6. You
Oh,
can
so
spin
you're
it
saying
again.
Caleb actually tries to make energy and activates the second Marvel.
Right.
That seems really good.
Or he can just use these 2 Aether Hubs that Baugh already has, spend the energy that's in the pool currently. Either way, you should definitely crack the vessel.
Yeah, he doesn't want to
Before
give Jacob the option because Caleb can make it take nothing.
Exactly. Before he gets any other options, he just wants to get this information.
So what is Caleb going to do with the Vessel of Nascency then? Is he going to tap Aether Hub? Yeah, both lines here. You either want to try to make the Marvel fire off again, or you want to just drain all the... You want to make it so that Jacob ends this turn with 0 energy.
Right.
Or as little as possible.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to spend 1 energy to crack the vessel. And now we see an Aether Hub in those top 4. So he could have fired off Marvel again if he had played this differently, but I don't believe he can anymore.
Tapped Hub didn't use the energy.
Oh, well, if that's true, then we're still good. Gonna play the Aether Hub. Okay, yeah, Baugh up to 4. Caleb will tap the 4. Legend rule the hubs. Spin it again. Yeah. This is great. Second hub. Legend rule the old one. 2 more energy. Baugh up to 6. Tap it. Yeah, we'll spend everything. 3, 4, 5, 6 cards off the top. Another Emrakul. Ishkana, Attune, Harness Lightning, Attune. I don't know that he wants to play any of these again. He'd be giving Jacob energy, right?
Right. If you Harness Lightning down the spider, Baugh ends up with 1 energy at the end of it because the spider is dying. And that's the only one you would think about casting. That exchange might just be fine.
Spider is a blocker.
Right.
Might as well. Especially, actually, this is big. I want to point this out. If the spider's in play, Baugh has an Emrakul in hand. If the spider's in play, when Baugh, you already know where I'm going.
Right. You can mess it up so you double block with Emrakul Spider against Scheer's Emrakul. Eat it with the spider, your Emrakul survives.
So what happened there is Caleb cast Harness Lightning. He overpaid. He spent 3 energy to resolve it, so dealing 3 to the spider. Mm-hmm. It dies, and when it dies, it makes 1 energy from Aetherworks Marvel. So killing that spider may have actually saved Caleb's Emrakul.
Yeah.
That's a huge hit. Now we go to Baugh. He's going to start his own turn, and boy, he had what was once a dominant board and now just an Emrakul in hand.
And as Nahiri's not able to exile anything currently, he could only use that to rummage.
And there's nothing's tapped. There are no enchantments. Drew a card, so he can discard and draw once with the Nahiri. Caleb has pulled back into this.
And Baugh only has 8 lands on the battlefield, so he can't even conceivably cast an Ulamog on this turn. So Emrakul is definitely the best possible spell for him to cast.
If he could discard and draw into Ulamog, that would be tempting. It would be. I mean, resolving one right on this board would be great.
Right.
And he's close. 8 lands. So he pluses Nahiri, and then he does not discard anything. So whatever it is he drew, he actually quite likes it.
Yeah, it's a Vessel of Nascency. That one's reasonable.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Emrakul, the Promised End, and Vessel of Nascency are the plays for Jacob. So we go to Caleb Scherer. Now he's going to play a turn controlled by Jacob. And he's got an Ulamog. They knew about it, but only 8 lands. He can't get all the way there. Jacob makes him draw. It's going to be Ishkana. It's strange, right? Because Caleb's hand was so light on action. The difference we've seen here is when Jacob Emrakul'd Caleb the first time, he did actually nothing.
Right.
And then Caleb said because Caleb's hand was bad. Now Caleb Emrakul's Jacob's great hand because Jacob's hand was so great, Caleb was able to destroy him.
Right. Yeah. He had enough resources to throw a lot of resources away.
Yeah. So here's how we defend against Emrakul. We keep really bad hands, play some weaker cards, and then Emrakul's not that big of an issue.
Thopter beat down.
It's in defense of that, right? If I spend all my energy making Thopters, you can't mess me up with Emrakul as much.
Right.
So we are still on Caleb's turn. This is Caleb's turn, controlled by Jacob. He'll say Caleb's going to attack with a Thopter into Emrakul, and Jacob just passes. Caleb gets his own turn. He draws a second Ishkana. Land 9 is in his hand. Now keep in mind that Nahiri is at 8. And that's big. I suppose on Scheer's side, he can force the Emrakul trade here. Make Emrakul attack Jacob. And then let's send the Thopter at Nahiri.
Right. He'll be able to pluck it down because Baugh has to make the other
to 7, yeah.
Right.
So, and that's what it's going to be. Thopter at Nahiri, Emrakul at Jacob. So then the Emrakul's trade, and here he goes to a very relevant 7 loyalty.
Meanwhile, Baugh at 6, Caleb casts 6 power of spiders.
Okay, well, that's going to force an answer. Now, fortunately for Jacob, there are no Aether Hubs on Caleb's side, so we don't have to worry about that drain off of Ishkana.
Right. We do have to worry about Caleb top decking his 10th land and casting that Ulamog.
Yeah. Caleb says go. We're back to Jacob Baugh. Draws a card. Now, keep in mind, Baugh has a Marvel. He's at 2 energy. He's got a Vessel of Nascency. There's a lot of play here. He starts by cracking the Vessel up to 3 energy. Let's look at the top 4.
Looking for a puzzle knot.
That'd be pretty big. He's gotten puzzle knot saved him once. He finds Chandra, Marvel, and another Vessel. So the second Marvel gets him to 5 energy. Is it possible he wants to take another Vessel? He has enough mana to do all this. I guess he still has 2 more sources of green.
He can crack it again.
Yeah. Up to 4.
If he finds a puzzle knot there or a servant of the conduit, that gets him to 6.
And that's what he's going to do. He's going to take another Vessel.
Yeah, this other stuff just doesn't do anything here. Spinning the wheel with the Vessel is really the only line that he has.
Yeah, he knows that Caleb has an Ulamog in hand, too. Yeah, he's still thinking about it. Taking Vessel. Can he win with Chandra? He's got to think. Okay. Is Chandra good enough? Counting mana here. This is real close for Baugh. What about second Marvel? He starts to think. Is that better? He'll go to 5 energy. But he's guaranteed to hit. He takes Marvel, and that makes me think that the other card in his hand might play.
It's got to produce energy somehow.
Seems like it, doesn't it? It is a Servant with a Conduit. Now this makes sense. Servant brings him up to 5 energy. Aetherworks Marvel, Legend Rule, 7 energy. Great. Now does he Marvel main phase, or does he Marvel on Caleb's turn? It's a good question.
I expect it to happen on Caleb's turn.
He has not found his own Ulamog yet. There's one in the main deck for Jacob Baugh. There is this interesting dynamic, actually, though, with an Ulamog in Caleb's hand. Both players play one in the main. You actually don't want to be the first Ulamog player. These decks cannot remove Ulamog once it's on the battlefield, except with their own Ulamog. Each deck plays one.
Baugh would really like to control Caleb's turn and have him draw 10th land and cast that Ulamog. I suppose Jacob could get milled there. He doesn't have an Emrakul to block anymore, and the Ulamog can't exile itself, so scratch that one, actually.
For the 4th time here, it's going to be Aetherworks Marvel from Jacob Baugh. Let's see what he hits. Servant, Attune, Puzzle Knot. I don't think we hit anything good. 2 Puzzle Knots.
He's in a position where gaining 3 life does technically allow him to survive this turn.
That's his play. Means that next turn he gets to reload. That is, of course, unless Caleb just draws land for Ulamog.
If he draws any land 10 that ETB's untapped, he gets to cast Ulamog. If it's Aether Hub, he can activate Ishkana, potentially lethal Jacob that way.
Pluses Nahiri to 9, and we go to Scherer. Can he hit untapped land 10? It would mean he gets Ulamog this turn. Big draw. Caleb hits a basic forest.
That's a good forest.
That, it's rare that you're looking for that 10th untapped land. It's his 9th basic, but it might have just been the best draw possible for Caleb Scherer.
Yeah, let's exile those good cards that Jacob has.
That Nahiri's about to ultimate, that Aetherworks Marvel. Let's get those things out of here.
Yeah.
Now, what I like from Caleb is he's top decked what is likely the win, but he's not letting Jacob know yet. He doesn't want Jacob to have that knowledge when he makes this block. So he's starting with an attack. All of the creatures are going at Jacob. And this is really neat. So it's only 7 power. It's not lethal, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're Jacob, you have to think, what if Caleb drew, I guess, a black mana source?
Yeah.
And then you're just dead to Ulamog, though.
Right.
Interestingly, if he takes 7, and Caleb Scheer's last draw was Chandra, then Jacob's throwing it away, right?
Yeah, you plus don't cast whatever you reveal. That's 2 more damage to Baugh. 9 minus 7, 2. 2 minus 2, 0.
So he's going to play around that by blocking a spider. Jacob goes to 3. And then Caleb's going to tell him the bad news, and that's we hit the forest. Jacob knows the card in Caleb's hand, and it is the card for the matchup. It is Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. He will eat away the Aetherworks Marvel and the Nahiri and pass back to Baugh. Draws a card, and that's going to be the game. Caleb Scherer with the comeback here. He takes game 1 over Jacob Baugh.
In impressive fashion. He was never in control of an Aetherworks Marvel.
No, he didn't Marvel anything. He went on this Thopter aggro plan, which was kind of risky at best. It looked like it might work until Jacob hit a Puzzle Knot, and then you thought, oh man, Caleb went for this corner case. It almost worked, but Jacob stabilized, and then Caleb just wins this out of nowhere.
Little Emrakul action at the last possible turn certainly worked in Caleb's favor there.
Some really impressive stuff. Okay, so Teamer Aetherworks, Caleb Scherer, he wins his first game. That's huge. We said that before. This is not a game 1 that's good for Caleb.
No.
Let's look at the sideboards. On Jacob Baugh's side, he has 2 Tireless Trackers, a World Breaker, a Clip Wings, 4 Galvanic Bombardments, 2 Kozilek's Returns, the 4th copy of Ishkana, the 2nd copy of Sigarda, the 2nd copy of Ulamog, 1 Nissa, and a Fragmentize.
What we see players do when they play the mirror match is they get a little bit more mid-rangey. So we'll be seeing Tireless Tracker coming in, the World Breaker as another hit or just 7 mana spell, extra Ishkana, that's great. The Sigarda, that's huge in this matchup. It gives you protection from Emrakul. An extra Ulamog for a hit off of your Marvel, or maybe you get to 10 lands in this matchup, and the Nissa, another Planeswalker, is great.
Yeah, Ulamog's so important here. Now, we're talking about Caleb's sideboard. I want to back up for a second. When we, before this match, talked about Teamer Aetherworks having an excellent sideboard, there was a specific card that I was looking for here, and that's a copy of Ceremonious Rejection.
Yeah, Caleb has the wrong 1-mana counterspell on his sideboard. He has 3 copies of Dispel. That one doesn't really play here. Only has 1 negate.
So you see these other things, the mid-range cards. So 2 Tireless Tracker, 1 Ulamog. First of all, it's less mid-range than Jacob has. And now that Caleb doesn't have the counter spells that we were expecting, does this actually get better for him after sideboard?
It still gets better. That negate, should he draw it, is very impactful. I think that Baugh is likely getting more better.
Right, so we thought the matchup would swing the pendulum toward the Caleb from the sideboard. I'm not sure that's true anymore.
There's a specific set of games where specifically negate will win Caleb that game when Baugh otherwise has no play.
Right.
If both players are marveling, Caleb negates, and then Caleb marvels, he has an avenue to victory there that Baugh does not have, but the percentage that this happen is quite low.
Yeah, with Ceremonious Rejections, it's a frequent part of the matchup. We saw that with Jim Davis versus Andrew Jessup, where players were just really contorting their plays. You know, Andrew Jessup wasn't going to commit a Marvel into Jim's mana because Jim had 3 Ceremonious Rejections, things like that. I just don't know if Caleb will play with any sort of caution. 1 counter spell, I'm going to jam.
Oh, yeah. There's really no reason to respect that. He has it or he doesn't. And just if he has it, you hope that your 5-drop's good enough.
It's a 1-of. So we're going to get ready for game 2. Jacob Baugh will be on the play this time. In the meantime, we're going to tell you about our pre-release coming up. This is, of course, the Aether Revolt pre-release, and over at Star City Games, we have our custom playmat, the limited edition Pandra Nalaar playmat. You know, see everyone's favorite planeswalker leading the Aether Revolt here with her animal friends. You can get this limited edition of playmat at all participating stores around the country. These are being given away at the January 14th through 15th pre-releases. Find a store near you to get one of these great playmats. They're all available at starcitygames.com/pre-release.
Is one awesome looking panda.
All right, she's in charge. Right there.
I would not question the chain of command.
So for Caleb, Scherer up a game. Now a game from the finals. This is his 2nd Players' Championship. The 28-year-old from St. Louis, Missouri, he was so close to missing the Players' Championship last year and so close to missing it this year, but both times squeaked in and now is just really making the most of it. The combo player in all formats, he is a math student, and you know, that just fits right in. He played Storm in Legacy, Dredge in Modern, Aetherworks in Standard. Just playing the odds and crunching the numbers better than the other players, he finds himself 1 game away from the finals.
He has a reputation for being a Storm player really above all else in Magic, but maybe we should revise that discussion. We saw him last year at the Season 3 Invitational, just crushing in Standard and Modern. We see him in this tournament. Legacy was his worst format.
Yeah, he actually made it into day 2 thanks to Dredge. And his Standard deck, Teamer Aetherworks, that's just doing huge amounts of work for him. The only classic he won this year, that was Modern. That wasn't Legacy.
Yeah, he's got plenty of chops in these other 2 formats.
For someone who's just trying to cantrip better than his other opponents, that's something I can definitely understand. Jacob keeping 7 on the play. Caleb, he's going to keep it 2. So game 2 underway for Baugh. It's going to start on a copy of Evolving Wilds. And a lot of times we see these decks really change after sideboarding because of all these counter spells they can board in. Because of how this is built, I feel like these post-board games are still going to have a lot of the same interactions as the game 1.
Yep, and sideboarding, it is face up. Baugh knows that Scherer is very light on counter spells, so this should look quite similar to how game 1 plays.
Yeah, he's not going to respect them. Basic lands for both players. It's an Evolving Wilds for Jacob. Caleb does one better. He's going to attune. We saw that last game. A ton of energy incidentally made by Caleb. One thing I do want to ask you. So we saw game 1. Whirler Virtuoso actually ended up kind of getting the game for Caleb. It's a pretty mid-range card, though, in what turns out to be a ramping mirror. Do you think Caleb keeps them in?
It is a very high source of energy. The fact that it produces 3 where a lot of the other stuff outside of the puzzle knots only produces 2. So the card does end up being significant in the matchup for that, which is often just about getting to 6 and casting a Marvel. I suspect the card does stay in.
Players are going to trade some 2-mana spells. Jacob tries to get ahead with Servant of the Conduit, but Caleb responds with Harnessed Lightning. Though on energy, it was still +2 energy for Caleb, or for Jacob, and +1 for Caleb. Evolving Wilds, turn 3 here for Baugh, and he will ramp his energy up some more with Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. But notably, he's only at 5, so if he has the Marvel next turn, unless it's off Aether Hub, he can't use it. For Scherer, it'll be a Servant of his own. That puts him up to 5 energy of his own, plays Evolving Wilds. Now both players are in that situation.
And Scheer's pickup for that turn was Whirler Virtuoso.
Okay, so they're in the deck. At least some.
I don't expect to see the Agrothopter play in this game, but we'll find out if Baugh is able to produce a Marvel.
Well, it's interesting, right? These 1/1 Thopters actually do a reasonable job of pressuring Planeswalkers. I know the Planeswalkers aren't everything the matchup's about, but they're not nothing.
The card is quite poor against Ishkana specifically.
Right.
But yeah, if it's more of a Planeswalker game and the spiders don't show up, the Virtuoso can be quite impactful.
All right, Baugh's turn 4. Ideally, it's Aether Hub Marvel here. I don't think that's the play. It's much weaker. It's basic Forest Go. And now we'll see how Caleb can respond. He's going to crack Evolving Wilds. Getting likely his island to get his 3rd color online. It's going to find it here. There we go.
Yeah, given that he already has Virtuoso in hand, the island has some significant value. He has a Servant of the Conduit, but he doesn't want to use energy that way.
Unglued, unhinged, regular. Why not some of all?
Yeah.
Love it.
A little diversity.
Draws Harnessed Lightning for Caleb Scherer. Just as an energy producer, something he's kept a number of in. So Jacob didn't have the Marvel. Now the question is, does Caleb? And I don't think he does either. It's going to be Tireless Tracker. Evolving Wilds make a clue.
That's a combo.
Yeah, he gets an extra clue here. If he played a basic land, he could have cracked the clue immediately, but instead he's going much bigger. He's going to attack with Servant. Or, correction, he's going to cast Vessel of Nationcy with Servant.
Yeah, with Baugh having that Puzzle Knot, he doesn't really have to go the beatdowns. With Baugh not presenting a Marvel when he got to 4 mana, Scherer definitely wants to try to spend some time, use that Vessel to find a Marvel of his own.
So Jacob one step crack the Puzzle Knot. It puts him up to 8 energy. That's going to be online for any Marvel he draws. For Caleb, while the mana's down, he'll go ahead and get his 2nd clue off Evolving Wilds. But Caleb is now tapped out, no negate up. Baugh has 8 energy. We're going to see. We're going to see if he can do something marvelous. Draws for the turn. You see some answer cards here from Caleb in hand. He draws a Tune with the Aether. He has Fragmentize and Chandra Torch of Defiance both in his hand.
I think there's a lot of temptation for Baugh to fragmentize this Vessel of Nascency.
Oh, he is tapped down. Now, he had to pick here, so he's going to attune. He can attune for Forest and shoot the Tracker. If he had the red mana source in hand, he could do it all. He could Chandra, Fragmentize, and that's really good. Looks like he's going for the Chandra line, which means Vessel lives.
But
I agree with you. I agree with
dies.
you. Yeah. Well, if he lets Caleb untap, there's a risk that Chandra can't kill that Tracker anymore. 2 clues in play. Caleb makes a 3rd clue, has 6 mana. I guess you just have to get rid of the Tracker while it's still an X4.
If you're not marveling, Tracker is a heck of a mid-range card.
Yeah, that's some serious respect that Jacob just gave it. Chandra down to 1, a draw from Caleb Scherer. It is a copy of Worldbreaker. 5 mana available, maybe 6. He's not going to be able to do that this turn. But what he will be able to do, be able to not get that Chandra off the table.
I imagine that Caleb's turn involves cracking Vessel looking for a 5th land drop or a Marvel. Those are both probably totally fine hits here. And then if he just gets a land that way, casting Whirler Virtuoso on this turn.
Yeah, I'm interested if it's Whirler Virtuoso or actually just cracking clues. He's got a lot of ways he can play this.
Sure. Yeah, the clues dig him towards land drops and or Marvel.
Yeah, it depends how much, whether Whirler Virtuoso is better than or worse than just a random card in hand.
Once Baugh starts casting Planeswalkers, you really would like to have the Virtuoso on the table, though
That
it gets
is
a
pretty
lot
good.
worse if Baugh has Ishkana.
So Caleb will start by cracking Vessel. There is Marvel, Land, Chandra, Servant. Lots of good options. He doesn't have the land drop in hand. There's some temptation to take Forest, even though Aetherworks Marvel is such a strong card. Some temptation, but not enough. Caleb will take the Marvel.
That card's pretty good.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Even at 4 energy, Caleb's always down for an Aetherworks Marvel. Checking some card types. Looks like 6 in the yard. So, Servant will take care of the Chandra. Here's Caleb. Now he decided, this is interesting, he's going to pass turn. So he's holding up Negate.
Yeah. He has mana to either crack or clue or play negate. He missed a land drop there, and that helps sell to Baugh that he does have negate in hand.
Right, because if you didn't have, if he hits a land there, he can't play it when he cracks it on Jacob's turn. And the best part is, I don't think Caleb has the negate.
No, I also believe that he does not.
That's a great sell. He does have a Harness Lightning, so he's not actually with no cards.
Yeah, there's not a ton of things that Jacob does that you answer with Harness Lightning.
Well, here's one of them, Sigarda Heron's Grace. Caleb's got to decide, clue token or kill Sigarda. It'll cost him most of his energy, but that's what he'll do.
That card's really good.
Yeah.
Killing it just makes sense.
Kills it. He goes down to 2 energy, though. So now the Marvel he took last turn is a lot farther from being activated.
Yeah. He still has Virtuoso in hand. He can start building up energy that way.
Draws for turn. It's a second copy of Emrakul. Plays Aetherworks Marvel. Swings with Servant. Jacob down to 22.
Okay, well now Baugh's going to get rewarded for holding onto that Fragmentize. He'll be able to hit this Marvel before Scheer is able to get 6 energy.
And that's big. Baugh drawing another land here. And looking at Baugh's graveyard for a second, we have Creature, Planeswalker, Sorcery, Artifact, Land. 5 card types. You see Baugh makes land drop number 7. One more land drop, and he's just casting Emrakuls. Back to Scheer. And it's not like Scheer has that much going. He was a game he was ahead in, and somehow we find a board where he's not doing much.
He's up on cards.
That doesn't matter.
It can matter.
Yeah.
Baugh hasn't produced a Marvel yet.
Yeah, it's like he's had these 2 clues off the Tireless Tracker, but
he hasn't had the mana to use them.
Yeah, it's not the right board for them.
But he does just have a handful of spells.
All right.
If he gets up to 7 mana, he has World Breaker already in hand. He has an Emrakul, which he's quite close to casting. And the Virtuoso is not for nothing.
So, attunes for land 5, plays it, goes to 5 energy. Got Virtuoso, World Breaker, Emrakul in hand. 2 clues on the board. He'll start by cracking a clue. He actually spends his blue mana to do it, so no Virtuoso. And then casts Virtuoso using a blue mana off Servant. I suppose if you're planning to do this anyway, it doesn't matter. He goes up to 7 energy.
Right.
The draw from Baugh. Does he have an untapped land, Emrakul? He's at that point. He only has, it looks like, 3 cards, maybe even just 2. Make that 2. Servant to the Conduit. He needs the last card to be good. Jacob may just be running on empty. He got his Chandra answered. He got his Sigarda answered. There's no guarantee he has anything going on. And it doesn't look like he does. Caleb untaps. To draw another attune, so already at 7 energy. Caleb no longer having any issues there. Goes back to the beatdowns.
And with a tune, that gets him up to 6 lands. Should his Servant survive, he's in World Breaker territory on the following turn.
Yeah, attune's up to 9 energy. Might just make a trio of Thopters.
It's also in Emrakul territory with those 6 card types.
Okay.
He has both of these giant monsters in his hand.
So attune's up to 9 energy. And I'm interested at what point Caleb just spends all this on Thopters. Here's Ishkana the Graphido. She brings along 3 spiders. I think we're going to see it on end step. We have all these creatures, 3 spiders. I would love to have 3 Thopters next to this. We're teamer energy now.
Right.
Teamer tokens. Big draw for Baugh, and it looks like he may have hit. I think the draw for Baugh, Aetherworks Marvel.
All right. So it's a line to try to hit again. He does need that Marvel to find something good.
What's a start, right?
Well, on the following turn, Caleb can either Emrakul and really mess with what's happening, or just World Breaker away the Marvel. So he needs that Marvel to do something good.
You're right. There's 2 answers in Caleb's hand. He needs to hit Emrakul. Maybe that's not even right. Then he can make Caleb cast. He can really mess this up if it's Emrakul. Or at least that's the start.
He can mess it up a little.
Yeah, this is tough.
Caleb has just like a lot of creatures on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's Temur tokens. He's just gonna cast Emrakul this turn. Okay, so it didn't need a Marvel. He just casts it straight away.
Okay.
Says go. So now this is Caleb's turn, played by Jacob, and it's a monster of a turn. 2 Emrakuls, World Breaker, draws Aether Hub. Caleb's got so much action.
Caleb made 0 Thopters here. Suppose it's just not what the game is about. He can potentially cast quite a lot of Emrakuls in the coming turns.
Yeah, I could see that. He already has spiders.
Right.
And now Jacob, just a 13/13. He can force Caleb to World Breaker something dumb. He can eat any one of Caleb's creatures. Beyond that, I'm not sure how many bad things he can do. Can spend some energy.
Right.
Okay. Right? Yeah, this is tough.
Well, I'm still kind of wondering about this not making Thopters thing. I guess since Caleb hand is so good, it kind of doesn't matter. He's still going to be going to his turn with Emrakuls in hand, but if Baugh drew a Marvel, he could mess with Caleb's energy, but I guess he just doesn't care.
If the Thopters aren't going to decide the game, I understand wanting to keep them. I mean, you can make them later if that's what it becomes about. It's not really, that's not the tipping point.
Sure.
You know, maybe down the line, some stuff happens with Marvels where you need some energy.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting decision. I don't know that it's the tipping point of the game.
It's very micro. This game is about 13/13s for the next few turn cycles here.
And if there's anything we're taking away from this game, this is the 3rd Emrakul that Jacob has cast. Every time it seems that Jacob is taking Caleb's turn, it's whatever. Jacob's got a lot of creatures. Caleb's got creatures. Jacob kills 1. It's fine. Every time Caleb takes Jacob's turn, it's a disaster for Jacob.
Right. Emrakul really needs to work on her branding. Would not call myself the Promised End if I was such a Phase 2 card.
Ulamog promises the end of the game a lot better.
Right.
When one person casts that, the games end pretty quickly.
Ulamog, the deal with it. Ulamog, the infinite deal with it.
Yeah, this is neat, and your Thopter thing might come back to get Caleb. So the play that Jacob decided on was to have Whirler Virtuoso attack itself into the Emrakul. So Caleb's never going to get those Thopters, or at least not unless he finds another Virtuoso.
Right.
But what else does Jacob do? Casting Emrakul here seems weak.
He can
World Break something?
I guess you can cast World Breaker and destroy one of Scheer's lands.
Or just not cast it.
Right. Not casting it probably generally better.
That was his decision. He just didn't cast anything. He used the Servant to the Conduit to needlessly spend an energy, but that's it. There was an Emrakul, and all Caleb lost was 1 Virtuoso and 1 energy. Mm-hmm. And he got a card for it.
If Caleb didn't have another land drop, then exiling one of his lands would have mattered because he was at exactly Emrakul territory. Right. Yeah, but he had that Aether Hub just in hand.
Now, as we've seen before, Caleb's Emrakuls, the cards read the same, but Caleb's are doing so much more. He's going to cast his copy of the Promised End. Now he takes Jacob's turn, and we see Aetherworks Marvel in Jacob's hand. So we go. Jacob goes to draw. It's Nahiri. Oh my gosh, this is really bad.
Both of these cards This is really bad for Jacob. This is horrible.
Aetherworks Marvel makes it. Oh no. This is so bad for Jacob. Again, Emrakul swings, trades with a spider token. You see Caleb, he's on fast forward. He knows. Jacob knows too. Mm-hmm. That's just it, right? Caleb gets Emrakul and it doesn't matter, and Jacob gets Emrakul and loses the game. This is what happened game 1 too. Yeah. So, all right. So we'll play this out.
So we were talking about how the elements of Caleb's deck, his splash, his blue splash, his Whirler Virtuoso, it's just a card that makes energy. It's kind of non-consequential in the grand scheme of things. Jacob has Nahiri.
And you see Jacob, he doesn't even want to see it. He concedes, and Caleb Scheer 2-0 is going to move on to the finals. So the play that Caleb sets up there is he's going to make Jacob cast a Marvel. Then he's going to spend Jacob's energy to tap the Marvel. He's not going to pick anything. Then